Welcome to the Go Procast, where we invite business doers who are changing lives by sharing their stories, their strategies and tactics, and who bravely talk about their failures that actually led to their biggest successes. Now it's time to Go Pro with Jeremy Torres. Most people never learn how to use their stress to their advantage. They're encouraged to shy away from it, where it either destroys them or eats them up inside. That's not my next guest, however. Colonel Deb Lewis was in the first class with women at West Point. Colonel Deb went on to lead a $2.1 billion construction command in combat. She's had thousands of opportunities to perfect the art of how to handle stress. She arms you with the stress tools to achieve greater success in good times and in bad. Please welcome to the Go Procast, Colonel Deb Lewis.
Aloha, Jeremy.
Aloha. First of all, I usually do a couple of things first, but first I want to give you just to thank you for everything that you do. Thanks, standing O right off the bat. Thank you very, very much for everything that you've done, your career, the accomplishments that you've got. It's really, really impressive, but I'm honored to have you, and I don't use that word very often. So thanks for being on the show with me.
Thank you. The smile means I've eaten a lot of dirt, and you know what I mean.
I do. Yes.
I've eaten a lot of dirt. Yep. Thank you.
Well, we appreciate you. And I start off every show by asking my guests to tell me something good.
Well, I am so thrilled to be here with you, Jeremy, talking about this subject. You know, what's good is something my husband and we work together on a motto or a purpose, really a purpose in life. And Our purpose in life, it was after my military career. And he said, live life to the fullest with love in service. And the really good news is that is possible for everyone.
Yes, it is.
Absolutely everyone. No matter what they're facing today, a lot of people lose hope.
Yeah.
They give up right before success, and the thing is that what we're about to talk about today is one of the keys to how you can live that life. I live in Hilo, Hawaii. I love my home. I love my friends. I love my family. I love my husband, of course.
Wow. Yes.
And every day I get to look out at something that is healing to me, and that's the ocean. I love to look out at the ocean. Even when it's not sunny, it changes all the time, and that's the beauty of living. So yes, you can enjoy all the nuances in life. And some people might take a snapshot and say that's not pretty, but to me, it means so much.
Well, I like the stuff that's not pretty is got its own beauty.
Absolutely.
And being a South Floridian, I always have connected with the water and the tides and equated my moods with that.
Time.
Yeah, just south of
there. Your temperature, interesting. Your temperature, your temperature doesn't deviate. You're like at 70 today, but you didn't deviate hardly anything. We go from today was 64 and we'll go to 79.
Yeah, it was a cold weekend. It was actually got down like a upper 30s, like 39, 38. Very rare, very, very rarely though. It's been the first time in a year and a half that it got that low, but I love it. And as long as it's not windy, I'll still walk out with my shorts on and, I maybe have to put my winter.
As long as things aren't flying through the air, I'm good.
Yes, exactly. Even then, we're having a party down here.
That's true.
So I'd like to start really with the beginning. And I know we say 20, 30 minutes, but we might go a little longer if you have the time because you got so much to talk about, or to offer anyway. The getting into West Point, and especially being in the first class where women were admitted, how did that come about? How many times do you know if women tried and failed, and what was different about your class? Was it just the political error at the time that helped, or that must have been, how were you received? I have so many questions just around that part alone, but if you could spend just a minute.
Sure. And I'd love to go back just to what we said, live life to the fullest with love and service. There's a huge caveat to that. And that gets into the West Point story because there's a challenge there. if you think there's a shortcut or something easy about life, you are sadly mistaken. I call those the shiny objects, the things
Yes.
that people are trying to tell you, hey, you just do this one thing, you do this one thing. No, no, no. What we're going to talk about in our conversation is building, and this in construction, building the foundation.
Yes.
Because I have found that people have built it, the story of the wolf and the three little pigs, and how the earlier versions were not terribly stable. I work with people to help them build that solid foundation upon which they can live that kind of life continuously. Because if you haven't done it, then you will be slammed to the ground and you can't get up.
Yeah, and so a lot of people don't like that. Personally, I say I was homeless when I was a kid, and I was in many street fights, over 1,000. And then I went into martial arts in my 20s, and so I have a saying that I like to get punched in the face for fun, kind of like a hobby. And there's a chapter in my book called Jay Ain't Right, just for that reason. But adversity and me, we get along. I always take it and go with it, but doesn't mean that I'm happy about it, and doesn't mean that I actually
it doesn't mean it's easy.
No,
doesn't mean it's easy. It doesn't mean it's easy.
Mm-mm.
The happy piece, I am satisfied if I have to take a punch, or I have to do something very strenuous, or I have to really think through something, then that's work, but it gets you to another place. It's just like climbing a mountain. I mean, how are you ever going to get the view if you're not willing to get ready to prepare? See, this is the thing. Some people think, oh, I can just do it, and then they die because they're not well prepared.
But it's sad too. You said earlier that some people quit right before the success. So some people don't even know what the view looks like. But once you've made it, you're going to get knocked down a few times. But at least you've made it, and getting there a second time, a third time, a 10th time is easier when you've done it once. So how do you deal with, your whole thing's teaching people how to use stress to their advantage. What do you mean by that? And what are just a few things that you get there?
We'll get back to the West Point story.
I know, my ADHD is jumping in.
That's where that seed started. We'll get back to that West Point story, because that's kind of where that seed started. Because I'd grown up in a military family. My dad went to Vietnam, and everyone knows how the Vietnam veterans were treated. He went twice, and he was also in the Korean War, and he was also signed up he was in the engineers, but it was in the Army for the airplanes. And in World War II, he was a mechanic.
Wow.
And before it went over to the Air Force, because the Air Force hadn't been created then. So he'd been to all those wars. And so we moved around a lot. In fact, before I moved to Hawaii, I'd moved around 31 times. My husband was a preacher's kid, so he moved like 34 times. So we compare and say, you got to drag us out of here this time. But the idea of going to West Point, my dad went to West Point. And my mom, she was a great support. She taught me how to ride horses. My dad was the coach of our swim team when I was very young, taught me swimming. So I did a lot of physical tough things. I think kids these days are missing out because they haven't been able to necessarily go out and do that. But I was, and moving around to me didn't seem horrible, although sometimes people called us names. The post toasties. That was a fun one. Or, they just, if we moved, like one time in high school, I moved in the middle of my high school freshman year. Imagine that. Everybody set up their cliques, and I had people. So when you say 1,000 times that you've been in fights, I have 10,000 times people scream, spit, stab me in the back, just completely upend life when you think that all you're trying to do is be yourself.
And how long does it take you to ease back into that routine before you know it? And you probably know it's coming again. So do you even get to a nice routine?
Well, that's why mental toughness will be key. Resilience is kind of waiting for the next punch. Mental toughness is kind of going out. You see my shield. It's kind of like when we see Wonder Woman or Captain America, you're going out with your shield because you're going out into it. You understand the risks, like firefighters, police, military, all of those people who are in social work, they go out. Medical profession these days, you have to have that shield to be able to go out into the world. So when I went to West Point, I didn't have that shield. I must have had something, because first day I actually got through. But the second day was the one that I really hit the wall and had to dig deep, really deep. And that had to do with a thing that some of us are not very enamored with, and that is running.
Oh, gosh.
If you've ever run as far as you can, as fast as you can, and wanting to get sick or throw up, that's me at 1.5 miles. Okay,
Right.
1.5 miles. And so we went, and I practiced. I'm an athlete, but I jumped horses pretty high, over 4 feet. I mean, I'd done things. I'd done cross country, all these things, swimming, doing all that stuff. Digging deep for that was something I understood. West Point running, that was a new thing. I could sprint, but not. I hadn't done much distance.
I think you and I had a lot in common there.
I thought 1.5 miles was, that's what I needed. Well, the cadet in charge the first morning, like 5 a.m. Another thing, I'm not a real good early morning riser. But I did it for 34 years, and now it's like I want to wake up, not with an alarm, right? But I'm digress. So I'll go back to the story. I show up. We've had a pretty intense first day with lots of uniform malfunctions and getting adjusted. We were the first class with women.
Yeah.
Okay. And we stand on the shoulders of men and women who made that possible for us, who also had hardships. We could talk all day about the men who wrote the legislation that allowed women to get there, how much crap they took. But that second day, I'm standing there and I hear the cadet in charge go, "The run today is 2 miles.
Okay. Just past that comfort zone. The comfort zone is a wall for you. It's a hard stop. And now we're going a 1/2 mile past that.
And the other piece is you're running in formation.
But I think it'd be easier to run in formation.
Oh,
there's an energy.
No.
Okay.
Not so fast. The tall guys, I'm 5'5". The tall guys, that means their stride has to be shortened. For little guys like me, we've got to stretch to our extent to stay with the group.
Yeah.
And
so it's not a
trip somebody.
It's
if you trip
in
somebody,
formation.
they run into you. Oh my! I had one of the people took up half my space. And so I had a strategy later, but I'll go back. I'm standing there feeling sick to my stomach already.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking 2 miles in formation.
Right.
Oh,
you've already beat yourself in your head.
Yeah. So, that panic feeling, right? And so we start off on our run, and my newest roommate, she's like 5'8". She drops out in the first 1/2 mile.
Wow.
Now I know. Now she's a high jumper. She's been on cross country teams and sport teams and things. And I'm like, oh my God.
Yes.
It confirmed in me, yes, what I thought was bad is bad.
Right. Yeah. Right.
And so now my heart's pumping out of its chest. I can't catch a breath. I'm just starting to panic. And you just have to understand at that time, there's this huge pressure around women. You don't belong here. You shouldn't be here. Women,
and it's
this
in your face. It's not an air.
Face. And also a true test of that was, if you don't make the run, you don't measure up. All the negative words, the don'ts, the can'ts, the shouldn't, all of that. It's almost like a crescendo, as you're here and trying. And there's a lot of people who are on the leading edge of stuff. And I don't envy them, because you take a lot of crap and a lot of pressure. And the idea is, what do you do with it? So I'm watching the other one fade into the background. And then I look around, okay, who else? There was only one other woman in our formation.
Okay.
Let's call her the gazelle. Okay. I look over at her. I look over at her, and she's in the middle in the front, and I'm watching her face, and she's not even breaking a sweat.
I was going to say, if there were cell phones back then, she could have been texting, right?
Oh,
not a big deal.
Not only that, she was smiling.
Well,
and I'm thinking to myself, what I'm doing, how I'm reacting, is nothing like that.
Yes.
And then what I did next not only helped me make that run, it helped me make every single run that first year. And I got to tell you, it was not easy, but I made it. I went beyond my physical aptitude at that point. Why? because we have this thing called will.
Yes,
We
that's right.
have a strong will. We haven't even tapped the
That,
potential of each of
that's right.
us
That's right.
of what's possible. And at that moment, it was so important to me. And then I made the worst affirmation ever, but it
Okay.
worked. Sometimes you just do the best you can in the circumstances.
Right.
And I told myself, I ordered myself, I said, you will pass out before you fall out.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. And then
Now, that didn't work for everybody.
no, but did seeing her help you? Because you're like, wow.
It helped me focus and say, there's something better.
Yeah. Somebody's
I
doing it that I can
aspire
do.
to that.
Yeah.
The only way I know how is to have this terrible affirmation, which is like, if she can do it, I can do it. I'm going to pass out before I fall out.
Right.
I will not let myself go. I will see how far my body can take me.
Yeah.
And then I focused one step at a time.
That's right. One step at a time. Just shortest possible accomplishments that you can achieve, which is one more step.
And every year, they didn't even have data on women. We were graded by a bell curve. And I want you to know, to this day, we've had over 5,100 graduates of women from the academy, and they now make up 25%.
Wow.
In those days, we had 4,400 cadets, 119 of us entered, and 62 graduated.
Wow. Right at half.
But the inspiring story is what the women are doing today. Just go on. I'm going to talk later probably about the obstacle course. Go West Point obstacle course, men and women.
Yeah.
Top scores. It's amazing where we have come to.
Well, I think there's a woman in charge of the Marine Corps.
We still have a long way to go before these are first.
I think Trump put a woman in charge of the Marine Corps. The top Marine, operations is a woman, if I'm not mistaken. But it really is, in the age of, I'm not going to go down this. I'm not going to let you go down this. But in the age of this sexual identity, cross trends, this or that, and I'm not saying anything plus or forward or against it. Just seeing can a woman do or what can a man do. I don't even know why there's a conversation anymore. It's what is a person, what is their value? What do they contribute?
Yeah, we're speaking the same language, and that's what we're going to get to. What gets in the way?
Yes.
And what gets in the way is not as difficult to understand as you might think, but in practice, we'll talk about why that's so hard.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm a big David Goggins fan, and imagine if you were in 1,000 fights. I didn't run much. I didn't have to run. I joined wrestling one year, and we ran right past my house, at about a block away from the school. And I went, I don't like to run. And I went inside, and I was off the team. That was it. My drum set was calling me.
For some people, why would we judge other people? Is that right or wrong? Was it right for you?
Well, I just didn't like running. I didn't like it. I still don't like it. But listening to David Goggins, I started running. And I got from 0 to 6 miles a day in about 3 weeks. And I blew out my, one of the what's it called? A ligament, busted it. It had to have surgery and still limpy on it today. I was dancing Saturday night with my wife at a junior achievement event, and Sunday my ankle is this big. It's what I'm going to live with. It's okay. I'm not a runner. I don't have to.
You had a reason, and everybody has a different purpose. For me, I decided to then stay 34 years in the military where we ran all the time.
Yeah.
and when I hung up my uniform, guess what I don't do anymore?
You hung up your running shoes.
Yeah, the running shoes. Occasionally I will do that. It gets you in shape. So I ride, funny thing, is a 3-wheel bicycle, not an incumbent. It's a 3-wheel bicycle. It has a big basket in the back. It has a bell on the front, and I put tinsel out the handlebars tinsel around the basket. So everyone, and I have flashing lights, so everyone can see me coming down the road.
Yeah.
And they've been wonderful. The drivers have I get their attention quickly.
So you get
I'm a
your
big
exercise
enough
that
target.
way.
But you can stay in shape. It's like a Stairmaster for me. And I never have to put my feet down, which is bad for my back, because what I sacrificed was my back and a whole bunch of my body.
Yeah. Running is not really good for your body. It really wreaks havoc, especially I was 280 pounds. And I was about 260 probably when I was running, but that's a lot of weight coming down on flat feet. I didn't know I had flat feet, but those two combinations weren't good. And then, I don't need it. Find another way. We have the exercise bike, so you got to do something. I
You
like
have to
stretching.
stay in shape. You have to do whatever it is. For example, we had a fish fry, and I love fried fish. But what I've decided this morning, my big enlightened moment was, I need to do it in moderation, because
Moderation's always the key.
I had something that happened to me 2 nights ago where I couldn't sleep. I was sleeping on my computer. You're working on your computer, and then boom, my head, I go sound asleep, very high quality sleep, except for my neck.
Yeah.
And then I lay down and I start worrying about, I'm thinking I get that insomnia. The 10% now, I guess, have these, it's called GAD, general anxiety disorder. And so it can interfere with your sleep and things like that.
I sleep 3 hours a night and only 20 minutes at a time.
But I learned from this other incident that what happens is, if you have things that aren't necessarily good for your body, you can churn that acid. Just watch the movie, old one, Inner Space, and see the acid that can go.
I love that movie.
I love that movie. And so I got up, I took my 2 antacids, I went back to bed. And it's not because I handle a lot of stress, but the food that I was eating, if you're not eating the best quality food, you just need to do those steps in order to say, okay, I'm not going to do it all the time, but when I do it, I have to recognize so it doesn't interfere with the rest of my life.
Yeah. And I think, for me, I don't like working out, so I sacrifice on eating. So I do intermittent fasting more as a lifestyle, because your diet is 80% of your health anyway. If you're a gym rat like my wife and my daughter,
it's fuel.
It's still 20% of their health. 80% still comes from your diet. So I don't do a whole lot of working out, but I do probably 90% more attention to what I eat. And it's not even what I eat; it's how much I eat and how often. So that's work.
But it is your fuel. It's your fuel, and I know logically, this is the thing when we talk about stress. Logically, that the fuel in your body impacts your life.
Yeah, your attitude,
your clarity of thought, your attitude, all of that.
Yeah.
And in my case, I have a condition was adrenal stress fatigue, because I didn't understand the things I know today.
Yeah.
And so you don't produce hormones. Now, men and women produce all the same hormones, just different amounts.
Yeah.
And the idea is that you need to add to your life those things that will help you be at your best, be at high performance, peak performance. And so stress is one of those things that people think, just like breathing, which it's not, is natural. I can handle it. Well, you can handle it till you can't.
Right.
And so stress, to me, when we talk about the topics you were thinking about before and mentioning, to me, there is one thing that gets in our way that absolutely undermines anyone's best intentions to accomplish the greatest good for people, or even just to achieve your own goals. This thing is what I call an interception strategy. It's one of those things like interceptions in sports.
Mm-hmm.
You see activity, never mistake motion for action.
Right.
And in this case, if you're living with this condition, you are literally running in the opposite direction, or somebody else is, and they may win the game, or they may just cause you problems.
Yeah.
Who knows? But if you don't have this, if you don't understand this piece about stress, then it will completely interfere with what you're trying to accomplish. And people go all the time, why did they do that? Why did I know why now. I do know why. It took a long time. It took a lifetime to figure it out. And you know what it is.
What is it? I mean,
it's poor stress skills.
Well, I was thinking, I call it mindset, or proactive mindset versus reactive mindset. And that's
all part of it.
Yeah.
Poor stress skills are so easy to identify. Do you know the 3 ways that I identify poor stress skills? So easy.
I think, volume of your tonality.
It only took me my life to figure it out. So don't worry about it, there, Jeremy.
I imagine
when I tell you the first one, you'll know the rest.
Okay. Because I know me. I know I get frustrated very easily. So
you just hit it. That's the end. Fighting.
Yeah.
all those negative words, frustrated, annoyed, fighting with people, it's that friction. It's if you have that friction in your life and you choose to take it in that negative direction, then you will see how that can undermine anything that you're doing. Because it was Sun Tzu who said, the greatest victory is that which requires no battle. He was
put my head around that
a
one.
very long time ago.
Yeah.
BC. And what people think and are being told today is you must fight. You must fight for this. You must do this. Yeah. And I would say, of course, there's probably a rare occasion that works. But in my line, I build bridges between relationships. Okay. I build bridges that are so strong they will withstand a tsunami, an earthquake, a freeze, whatever. If you build a strong bridge between relationships, you will be mentally tough.
Yeah.
Because you know how to do that. But if you're fighting, anytime
fighting yourself, fighting others,
say,
fighting the task.
Yes. And so that is a huge part of the obvious negative piece that's in our lives, that people are told to protest, to do this. And you see what happens. How does that bring people together?
Right. No,
it doesn't. It divides us further.
Yeah.
So every time you get angry, whether it's yelling at a child, whether it's being angry at the TV, whether it's doing anything, you are creating energy. That's one of 7 ways I talk about communicating. But the energy, that's like a big blast, like those laser.
Yeah, I really believe in that too.
Those things, that negativity. And so that's one way, the anger, the fighting. Number 2, running away.
Oh, I've never done that, but I imagine a lot of people do that.
Well, you just told me a story where you're in the middle of it and you decide to disengage. You left the picture. Now, I don't know, maybe you could have been a coach, maybe, not everybody of us is suited for those things like running, and you later in life, but the idea is.
Well, I mean, what are you talking about from my running?
Yeah. Well, that was such a graphic picture of, you're with the pack and then you're gone. This is what happens.
Oh, I was a freshman in high school.
Yes.
Yeah. But now, I mean, I'm 50 now, I had no self-esteem. I had no when I had my mind shift at 20 years old, my whole life changed.
I know that, Jeremy, but you understand.
But running away, I definitely used to do that.
So many people are with you on that. You just check out.
Yeah.
The challenge with
I think a lot of passive people think that they're doing the positive thing by going, listen, this, I'm not with this, but it's not going to get anything accomplished then.
Well, that's the third one. Let's talk about that in a minute. The second one is when people physically leave whatever it is. And imagine, are our problems getting easier? Are they going away?
Well, no.
And this ties into what I believe about every single person. I believe every single person has a special gift. I don't care how it's wrapped in their demeanor or anything else. I believe every single person has a special gift. And when you are not in the space anymore, you can't access it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You just can't access it. Now you could be on Zoom or you could be a whatever. That's not the disappearing. That's the ones who don't come on at all. These are the ones that said, I don't want to even talk about that anymore.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's okay to step away and take a break and gather yourself.
Yes.
But don't abandon.
I'm not judging anything you did. I just thought it was a perfect example of people, they're in something and it doesn't feel right. And maybe it's for the best reason. Like, I have a limited time on earth. Is this really where I want to be? Is this what I want to be doing?
That's a choice. That's a conscious choice.
Billions and billions of options out there for us to live our life and how we spend our time and how we what we do.
Giving
but what
up
we have
in the
control
midst of
is our
frustration.
reaction. We have our reaction is our so this is reacting. This is all about reacting. So one reaction is it's primal, is fighting.
Yeah.
The other reaction
is
a
fight or flight.
Right.
And I know the third one now.
And now the other one is
freeze.
Or shutting down.
Yeah.
Disengaging.
Yeah.
The disengaging one is one of the biggest problems we have in the world today. They say that only 15% in the world are engaged. In the US, it's actually gone down a bit, but we were hovering over. Gallup did an assessment in the workplace that we're about a third of the people are engaged.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you have those, and I will not call them, I use another word instead of passive.
Okay.
I use the word thoughtful.
Okay.
They are thinking. They actually are thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And in all of these cases, unless you make it safe, and this is where mental toughness comes in, you're able to make relationships safe. For example, Jeremy, I would say, let's say we're in a room and we're getting ready to leave for lunch. People they're pretty tired.
Yeah.
We've been talking about some important things. And yet I know as a leader, and I used to do this in meetings, I haven't heard from you.
Mm-hmm.
And I really want to hear from you. Now, if I yelled at you, how long would you remember that? Right? I could say, hey, Jeremy, what's wrong with you? Why haven't you spoken up? Right?
Right.
You'd remember that forever.
Yeah. You're never going to want to be
You're never going to want
that group.
But imagine, which is often what my conversation was. I say, Jeremy, wow, I know you know a lot about this subject, and I realize that we're getting ready to leave for lunch. But you know what? I think everyone would appreciate your thoughts on this topic. Would you mind spending some moments talking about it? Take as long as you need. We know how important it is. Would you please share?
Yeah, that'd be a better way to get somebody to engage in the first place and feel inclusive.
Yeah, I have a whole exercise.
Yeah.
We could talk cockroaches and termite invasions and things about how I describe what's happening in a group dynamic. But people would say my meetings were exciting.
Yeah,
but
well, I think as a real leader, if you know your people's, like I'm a big DISC guy, so knowing their behavior trait will let me know how, because some people would love you to go, you know what, we haven't heard from you. And that's not acceptable because they need it. They like it. Like somebody like me, call me out on my BS, and I'm more likely to join. But
okay, here's the challenge with that. And I will get to values. There's a bigger part of DISC, and that's values. I do not believe they yet have really connected the values with the behavior styles.
Right. I'm actually going to boot camp on February 17th.
For people who don't know DISC, here's a real simple way that I remember it. This is why I love DISC, is you think of people who are active. Now, they call them passive. I call them thoughtful. So you divide the world in half and say, who are the ones who come into the room and say hello first? Or who are the ones who are waiting for someone to say hello? Those are the thoughtful ones. More the people in the world are thoughtful. They are not. There's a smaller number who is the active. Okay? Yeah,
I come in tap dancing and backwards with my hat on. Hey, everybody.
Me too.
With the lassos.
I get it. I related so much to your earlier. I listened to you with Marcia Dashko, my colleague.
That's how we were introduced. She's great.
Yeah. And so then the other piece of it, so you think of a circle with four
quadrants.
Blocks.
Yeah.
And so the upper one is that you're task oriented. That means that you never lose sight of the task.
Right.
You will make sure that task gets done. And then the bottom one is the people oriented. And I bet people will be surprised to know that you and I are people oriented, active.
Right. Yes.
I was 2 standard deviations off the chart on that.
Right.
And my natural state was a little closer to the middle, but my leadership state was off the chart.
Yeah, I'd love to review our together one day.
But I found it was the values, which gets to treating people so they feel safe.
Yeah.
There's a whole list of values, and I'll only talk about 2.
Okay.
One was social. Again, this is about how can I make a difference in the world?
Yeah.
My social was, again, 2 standard deviations, 3 standard deviations off the chart. I don't even think about what's in it for me. I just don't. Yeah. I'm always thinking, what am I doing? Can that help somebody else?
Yeah, that's the altruistic.
It's hard for me to relax for myself. Occasionally that happens, but most of the time it's like I'm always thinking and connecting the dots. How can I help? How can I do more? How can I use what I've learned? So I'm very, very have high energy.
Yes.
The other one And I can't remember what it was titled. See, this is where you get the scotomas, the blocks. But it was really about self-interest. There's a value there that what's in it for me. I can't remember what they called it, but it's what's in it for me. Now imagine working with someone who had the same what's in it for me as strong as I had the social.
Right.
That's where huge miscommunications happen.
Right.
Because everything, when I talk and that person's listening, they're saying what's in it for them.
Yes.
They're doing that not for themselves, but I mean, for other people, they're doing it for themselves.
Right.
And that's how they're listening to what you're saying. And then the altruistic one, when I'm listening to someone who actually is very much what's in it for me, I'm thinking, I wonder, they're probably thinking it could help this person and that person.
Yeah.
And you're dead wrong. So they see you as a threat.
Yeah.
And you wonder what hit me.
Right. And I was going to say, they treat you accordingly. Yeah. And there's one, there's like a weird deviation where I'm a huge giver, but only when there's something in it for me. Does that make sense? Like I'll work with somebody and I will die to help them I'll go through walls with them, but only if what they're doing will serve my purpose. Right.
Well, just remember, if your purpose is aligned, like you said in your harness, right? Harness, the service.
That's right.
Service to others is the greatest, meaningful, joyful place you can ever be.
Right.
When I have someone who trusts me enough, I wrote a little note yesterday about tears. Tears are actually a sign of strength. And when someone can feel comfortable and safe enough to cry in front of me,
right,
then I lift them up with the strength to say, you are strong, you are amazing, you care.
I don't cry, but my eyes sweat when I watch certain Publix commercials or Rudy.
Well, and the thing is it's not a sign of weakness.
No, it isn't.
And I also actually love people who are what they call grumpy or, really strong-minded, because you know why? I found that those are the people, they actually care, for one.
Yeah.
They care. We may completely disagree on what they care about.
Right.
Or what their conclusions are, but they care.
They do, yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
Chances are they used to be an idealist. And I call cynics idealists who were slammed.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So they have this passion, and again, this happens with stress. If you don't have any stress skills, what will you do? You will fight, you will flight, you will freeze.
So we cover what are some of those skills so you don't, well, you're going to do that. You're going to fight, flight, or have the third one, the disengage. But you have to notice, this is happening.
Yes.
What do I do then?
Yes. When you'll know it because your body starts reacting.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. I have the same words I always use, the same go-to phrases, And
I have, for your listeners, there's 2 courses. I have people from 119 countries taking them. And I created it before COVID. And then when COVID hit, I just made them free. I just said, what? These are foundational courses. If you learn these 5 steps and 10 lessons, and if you just go on the website and go to the course and pull down the attachments that I have, which are some people want the quick answer, which is okay. I like the notes ahead of time and then I go through it.
Yeah.
You can pull down the resource that is on each of them, which lists what those are. One is a step. You'll find one that goes like this. And then you'll find one for the stress pyramid, basics.
Yeah. That's mentally tough women. MentallyToughWomen.com. But men can use this too, though, right?
See, great you said that. I love men.
Yes.
I love men who I find who just, men will wing it until they get it. Women will oftentimes dissect it and undermine their own abilities. And that's why I love working with them. But you came to the stress training tools. And at the bottom of there, you can see those 2 courses there. I have the book, which we haven't talked about, which summarizes some of my life lessons of handling stress personally. And then there's two courses there. The first 2 on the left that you'll see. One is extreme stress. That's the one where you think you're naturally able to handle it, but you can't. So that's the physicality part and what you can focus on, those 5 steps. If you do those 5 steps
Yeah.
and get, for example, I have a sword.
Wow.
And you see that people oftentimes, in any great movie, you're going to be told how to use, that you have to practice with it.
Yeah, right.
You can't just learn it. You have to practice with it. And so I use this. Imagine this deflecting those personal attacks against you.
Right. Right.
When a
exactly.
shield isn't enough, you need something else to get those really close encounters so that you can survive. Because
Right.
if you don't survive, you can't do it. So those courses will teach you the foundational things to understand and give you insights as to how to practice it. So they're even better when you do it with a buddy who's going to keep you honest in doing those steps. And that to me is like the grade school. What you and I are talking about and getting to and what we've learned in our experience is like the PhD.
Yes, right. Oh, yeah.
I know you talk about your schooling. Every schooling is what you use. People have got the most degrees may use none of it to a practical purpose.
Yeah.
You and I are straight shooters. We have lived in the dirt. We know we have a choice of how we live our life. And your book, Labor to Leadership, no kidding. Not everybody wants to be a leader, and I understand that.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I wanted to be a leader, I wanted to influence the environment.
Yeah.
I learned that when you're in a leadership role, you actually have so much more control. If you don't like something, step up and do the leadership role. Because guess what? All of us are a role model to somebody. You're all leaders anyway.
Yeah.
You just think the positional power is the only, that's the least amount of power you can have.
Yes.
You're modeling behavior. Everybody's watching you. And I have so many leaders in positional powers deny, oh, nobody watches what I do. They don't know, they're not influenced.
You don't know who's watching.
Are you kidding?
Yeah.
Your actions, everybody's watching. And do you see how you're disrupting this group?
Yes.
I bring people in to give that mirror to the people. I don't color it. I just give the mirror.
Yeah.
You don't have to judge a person. You just have to help them see what's happening.
Exactly. And that's the most effective way, right? It's just trying to teach them. And to your point, everyone likes to be treated the way they like to be treated. I call it the platinum rule, instead of the golden rule. And trying to get people to understand that once an organization understands everybody's position, how they like to be treated, it's more understanding the way you start feeling the signs, the old things that come up and the old ways that never worked, but you're still doing them at 20, 30, 40, 50 years old. But once you can see, like, success leaves clues. So you catch it a few times and you get so much further with somebody else. And now somebody you couldn't get along with forever, all of a sudden you're collaborating and your department's being more effective and more profitable and more efficient. And there's actually happiness for coming to work, right? Because you spend a third of your time at work. And probably more than that, really half of your life really is, because nowadays everyone's working more hours. But imagine the horror of hating people at your job and hating the time you're there.
Oh, I had them work for me. I had the $2.1 billion construction, but before that I was in the US, I had districts and I would do out briefings with people leaving. And someone would say, I've hated this job. And what they hated really wasn't the task. They liked the task.
Right.
They hated the people. It's the people, the relationships. So when you had Marcia on, for example, Marcia Dashko, she is an expert on putting systems in place so that if you have a vision that your systems and profitability, yes, and you match what your values are.
Yes.
He bridges that gap between the vision and what your practices are. I do that at the human level, the human interaction level, because mine was often life and death issues. It was not something, and being treated for what you are, not who you are.
Right.
When we first went to West Point, back to the West Point story, you may only need one person in your life that gives you that strength to carry on. But there's no one who has not had terrible things happen to them. I'm sorry.
That's right. Everything is relative to
keep
everybody.
on putting it into a box that I'm the one who is so misjudged. I'm the one who, tell you what, look around you.
Yeah.
You know, Jewish people, they've been wiped off the earth, at least attempted to multiple times. The tribal, the Indians, the Native Americans, you know, anywhere, you know, anyone who was there. But I'm a nomad. You know, I was born in Germany. I grew up throughout the United States. Where do I have a place for the people who actually in their life were lucky enough to stay in one place?
Right.
You know, where are we welcome? We have got to stop dividing ourselves about why we're different. And and the way we get there is having, if you go through these 2 courses, you will get a glimmer. You will get a glimmer of what's possible, because if you have a strong foundation of how you deal with people, everything is possible. Everything.
Yeah, I love that. That's great. So when you go through the courses and you start to do this, how long does it take to go through the courses?
Okay, the courses, each one, here's a great idea. Rather than zooming through them as most people want to, what if you did a 5-10 minute video a day,
right,
and sat on that and just thought about it and talked about the concept took notes. If you take no notes, 50% is gone as you walk out the room.
That's right.
If you take notes, then you're lucky that you'll remember 50% of that a week later, a month later. None of it'll stick.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, I will guarantee, Jeremy, that when you listen to these, it takes 45 minutes to get through it all in the first class.
Yeah.
And an hour and a half for the second one, because there's 10 lessons.
Yeah.
There's 5 in the first, there's 10 in the second. If you take the time and take it at your own speed and try to share it with someone who you trust, go through it, then you will start having all kinds of questions, but you will get the fundamentals. It's like my husband coming to me, asking me how to breathe. He rode a bicycle 18,000 miles in 1 year for veterans. He went to all 50 states, and I drove the RV 26,000 miles to support him. You know, this is what I did after I retired. I really took an easy route.
Yeah, right. Exactly. That's not our style.
Most people. But the idea is these classes, they just teach you what you knew all along. These are more reminders. For example, lesson 1. Let's just do lesson 1. Lesson 1 in extreme stress is the one I find everybody, I did it with intention in the order of the classes. Right. They all work together in harmony. But if you just did one thing, number 1, breathing. Your breathing is like the canary in the mine.
Yeah.
When your breathing is affected, let me just remind people, do you know that as babies, we used all that, what we call diaphragmatic breathing? We can bellow. Oh my God.
Yeah, remember the baby's bellies go way up and way down when they're sleeping.
Yeah. Right? Now, as adults, they say 50%. We use only 50% of the capacity of our lungs.
Yeah.
Okay. We seem to think we can get by with 50%, and that's it. Okay. Imagine your brain. This is just one piece. Yes. Your whole body relies on it and is affected by it, but your brain is probably the most, because after 3 minutes, unless you're Houdini, you will die.
Right.
Okay. So anytime you interrupt your breathing, it's very important to get it back. That's the one thing. Don't do any, focus factor. If you can focus, I can laser focus at times. I can shine a light like we're doing in our talk, and then laser focus. Your breathing is the most important thing that you can do in order to handle stress and use it to your advantage. And how I do that, let's say I saw your picture of the stage, right? That would put people into an absolute, it's like the worst thing is death, like death.
Yeah, they do.
Standing in front of one person, let alone a crowd, right?
Right.
But you know that when you're going out there, you understand your focus is on what you're going to accomplish. And I'm confident you're doing something with your breathing, because without it, it's just you're going to sound like a crazy person, right?
Yeah, I have to slow down, actually. Yes.
So breathing, so to go fast, you have to go slow first.
Right.
It goes completely against, I say
Yes.
instincts stink. Our survival mode instincts stink in most of our lives.
Yeah.
We don't
Yeah.
need them. They are hindering our ability, and that's why we go in survival mode thinking, fight, flight, shut down or freeze.
Yeah.
So breathing, I have a very special one. I call it the waterfall method. And I learned this through the mindfulness experts of Joel and Michelle Levy.
Okay.
There's many ways you can breathe, and all of them have benefits.
Okay.
But for me, under stress, I find visuals, words, and physical actions all working together make it stick and can change my body dynamic almost in an instant, at least in 10 seconds, and definitely in a minute.
Yeah.
I can go from going crazy, like the run at the beginning we talked about,
Yes,
to controlling. And that's where I learned to control my breathing was West Point. I learned to control my heart rate. I didn't have this breathing technique, but I knew I had to control it. So I don't even know what I did, but I did it because I made the run.
Yes.
And then they taught me, I breathe in through my nose 3 seconds and out with my mouth 7 seconds.
Wow. Yeah, that sounds like a long time.
And I call it the waterfall method because I imagine 2 miles from me is this most beautiful waterfall called Rainbow Falls.
Okay.
I'm breathing in the clear, cool, beautiful scenery of that place, all that's good in life in the 3 seconds, very quickly. And I'm washing out all that garbage and gook and all those nasty voices in my head that are saying, you can't do this, And if you put your hand in front of your mouth, what do you get? Heat, right?
Yes, that's
that
right.
That gook is hot. Breathing in is cool.
Yes.
Breathing out is hot. If we do just one, breathe in 3 seconds. I have a little bell. That's what I use with people. And then we go to the next breath. If you take those 10 seconds in those moments that you are feeling stressed, you're feeling anxious, you wonder, you start asking, the second piece is you're asking horrible questions of yourself. Why is this happening to me? Why? What? No.
Right.
When I was running, I focused on questions that would help me get through it.
Yeah, right.
I focused on those. Did you know that your questions can influence people without ever telling them what to do?
Absolutely. I do now. It took me years, about
years.
40 years. The last 10 years have been better.
Giving people that shortcut. I still fight it because my habit is to state my opinion.
And a lot of times you just figure it's just faster. Mm-hmm. But you're not doing them or yourself any favors, especially if you have to be in a situation with them, like in a workplace situation or somebody's working for you, especially. And I never say that anyone works for me. I work with people, but if I need to work with them and they need to do their job, you can't do that.
Yeah. So this is a team effort, and your perspective is so valuable, Jeremy.
Yeah.
Because you've seen those things, and other people, they've been fed I won't call it a pack of lies, but it's a misperception. It's like the iceberg.
Yeah.
They've been shown, because they've tested it, what's on the surface, but they haven't a clue.
Yes.
The 90% below the surface that you and I just get.
Right.
You walk into a situation, it's like, and we do unexpected things because we don't just look at the surface.
Right. And we've done it, and we were there before when we didn't look at it and paid the price.
Well, and we've learned how to get the tools to go down below and see that.
Yes.
Or pitch a hole up the top and see the goop that kind of comes out. That's, just below the surface. Sometimes you got to lance it in order to get forward momentum.
Yes.
Because you have to show it to other people. But I think what's really wonderful about what we've been able to talk about, and thank you for this time together, is to share that stress skills give you that superpower. When you can handle stress, you can, like I did in the run, you can turn it from what could have been a horrible day. I could have either fallen back and felt such a loser, and the big L, or passed out in front of people. At least I would have said I tried.
Right, but still,
that wouldn't have been terribly, feel good. But
right.
I made it.
Yes,
and
you made it.
everyone can go from, like you said, laborer to CEO.
Yeah.
You can go from that pit digger.
Yes. Yeah, that's right.
CEO, because you didn't give up. And didn't is, I won't use that, because didn't is a word. Neuroscience, I use a lot of neuroscience too.
Yes.
Didn't is a word. All those negative words need to get out of our vocabulary, because if you ever told a child, don't touch that, and you saw what happened next, you realize that the brain does not recognize those words.
Yeah.
And you keep wondering why you keep getting the outcome you're getting. That's why. But stress skills help us not only use that as a superpower to really make a huge difference in the world, in one life at a time. Like the class that I do in, I only get like 1 or 6 a day.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's well over 4,000 that I've got now, because over time.
Yeah.
And people want to have the big win. Well, when the big win comes, when you go into the ground at your last.
I was going to say, never. The finish line doesn't come, right?
And other people talk about you. What do they remember about you?
Yeah.
What is your legacy? It's not in the moment. Sometimes you can get glimmers of that when people say they changed your life. But I know if I only change one, that's one more than I started with. Like the starfish story, throwing the starfish back.
And that's what
stress skills give you that. They help you be the best person you can be.
And these days, everyone could use that.
When you do that, good things happen.
Great things. Greatness. And we all are destined for greatness. We
Magic.
just have to open ourselves to it, the energy.
The magic of life, the miracle of life is what is right. I don't change the facts. I give you a new set of glasses.
Yes. Yeah. I love it. On that note, we have to finish this because we could go on for hours. But I have another show.
I know.
I'm producing called The Risk Factor.
I knew I'd love being with you. You are awesome. Thank you, Jeremy.
I'm going to have you on The Risk Factor because that is way what that new show's about. We're going to do some good stuff there.
My parents live in Florida, Melbourne, Florida. Dad's 95, mom's 89. Wow. I'll be back there again in April. Hopefully
we'll visit.
Reconnect.
We will visit. I'll have you in studio for that. And we'll have to do probably a series because we have so much to talk about. But I'm all over this. I'm all over. I say this. We're on audio. I'm all over the website.
Excellent.
MentallyToughWomen.com. We need to get as many people on there to take these two courses one at a time, absorb it, take notes, and then put it into practice.
You want to make a difference. You want to make a difference, be the best person you can be. And the only way you can do that is having amazing expert stress skills.
Well, thanks for joining us. We're going to talk. Don't go anywhere. I'm going to say goodbye to my peeps. I'll be back with you in a second. Colonel Deb Lewis. I could spend 5 hours. This could be a Joe Rogan type interview because there's so much to cover. I mean, we just barely scratched the surface of the notes that we took and that I wanted to get to. But I think it's all worth it. I think it's worth going into these discussions and having these moments to share with the audience that are attracted to me because we're all here for each other for a reason. You're going to hear me one day in the right moment in the right day because Colonel Deb was on here telling you something you needed to know, like to breathe. Maybe something could save your life from a car accident, from road rage. I really do believe it. I thank you for joining me, and we will see you again next time on the Go Procast.